remotely using custom 3D avatars. This means you can very much come into class as the anime waifu of your dreams. Aomi next revealed the project is in collaboration with Yushi International High School. The curriculum will be a 3-year credit-based course recognized by the Japanese Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. And look, I'm sure, all the VTuber fans out there, all the anime fans out there, all the weebs out there are probably looking at this and going, holy shit, Joey, why are you not excited? This is awesome. This is everything we dreamed about. I get to go to school in a virtual world, not having to interact with any other people like directly, and actually get like a degree that will help me in the future. Like this just seems like nothing but positives. And that's what I kind of thought at first as well. But then when I kind of sat down and thought about the actual implications for this, I definitely did stumble upon personally a lot of problems attending a school like this could result in. I'm not going to sit here and deny that, going to school in like a virtual setting and everything is one, very convenient because you don't really have to like actually travel anywhere like long distance wise, because obviously there are some people who don't necessarily like live next to their high school. So obviously it's going to be faster, cheaper, and easier to actually attend schools because all you have to do is just place a VR headset on your head and boom, you're at school. But I think one important thing that high school especially teaches you, and university especially, I feel university more than high school, but what high school prepares you for is the real world, in the sense that you go to school obviously not just to learn, but also to like learn about human interaction, because that's something that you're going to have to do when you enter university, when you enter the workforce, when you enter the real world as an adult. Obviously high school isn't the only place you're going to learn stuff like that, but it is one of the few places that you go to regularly to learn about that, to prepare yourself for growing up and stepping out into the real world where nobody will be holding your hand. It's all up to you. And in my opinion, what this whole virtual high school thing does is take that whole learning process away from you by completely making everything virtual. Look, I understand that, you might be in a position in your high school where or you were in a position of your high school if you've already graduated high school, where you may not have been like the most popular person in the world, or you may, have been subject to bullying, which is a real life, situation that is very, very unfortunate. But I don't think being in a VR world or a VR high school is necessarily going to solve those problems. Because at the end of the day, you are still showing off your human side. You are still showing off your real side. And if you want to like kind of, cosplay and like portray yourself as this like anime avatar that you've decided to create for this school, then what is that going to teach you necessarily? Because say, for example, you have an amazing time at this VR high school, right? You get to live out your 3 years of your prepubescent lifetime as just this like, anime character, boy or girl, whatever it is that you want to be, right? And really live out that whole like weeb experience. But once you graduate, that's it. There are no VR universities. There are no like VR jobs out there other than being a VTuber. So at the end of the day, you're still going to have to go out into the real world and interact with real world people without a VR headset to buffer you from that whole experience. And I'm just afraid that if kids kind of grow up with like this VR world or this VR high school being like a normal part of their society, a normal part of their like way of growing up, then it's going to really kind of skewer how they view the real world. They might not have developed skills that are good enough for them to actually go out and interact with real people. I get it, maybe you're one of those people who just hates interacting with people. You're so introverted, you're so socially awkward that you just can't stand dealing with that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's kind of unavoidable if you want to live. And there are some people who have gone out there and become VTubers full time, and that's fucking great and all, but at the end of the day, you still have to interact with people. You still have to like, get shit done by talking to people, and not every single step of the way is going to be while you're inside of a VR headset. If eventually down the road, Japan or the world develops like an entire society in the metaverse, which is I think what the whole point of the metaverse originally was going to be, where like you basically like work, live, breathe inside of this like virtual world, then I don't see a problem with this whole like virtual high school type of thing. But right now, as far as we know, we only really have like the virtual high school portion of things, and everything else is still kind of set in the real world. So I feel that for people who do attend these kinds of high schools, this already scary real world scenario is just going to end up being even more scarier because you're used to kind of living your day-to-day life in this virtual high school world. And once you step out of that, then how are you going to deal with the real world? It's definitely going to be a lot harder, and the way you think about the real world is going to be a lot different than how you experience it in high school. But let's continue reading. This means students who gain their diploma through the virtual school will receive the same diplomas as regular high school graduates in Japan. As the school's official site says about the project, the virtual classroom lets you be yourself without being constrained by your appearance, meaning students won't have to worry about their gender, looks, and any other insecurities they may have, which, is a great thing, obviously. And especially when it comes to Japan, where like, looks is a very important thing for a lot of kids and like young adults growing up because of the insane standards of beauty that especially Eastern Asia does have. This is obviously a great thing, but is it going to completely get rid of like bullying culture in general? Well, if you've been on Twitter for long enough, absolutely not. Even when you're anonymous, that shit can still find its way through, especially in an environment like high school, where kids have obviously less empathy, less sympathy than working adults that have found the time to mature and realize that bullying is fucking stupid. And even if your avatar might not look exactly the same as you in real life, bullies are unfortunately always going to find some way. And that's just like the unfortunate truth of the nature of humans. Students of the Metaverse High School will be provided with their own VR equipment free of charge and are free to attend classes from anywhere in Japan or overseas. Additionally, students will attend classes in a virtual classroom using a 3D avatar, all anime styled and customizable by each student. Again, weebs are probably frothing. I think, in concept, it's a pretty cool, unique, interesting idea. But I'm just not too sure as of right now, as of how the world kind of at large is treating this whole like metaverse thing, treating this whole VR thing. At this current stage of humanity, I'm not too sure if it will be as good in practice as it does in concept. Like, I totally get what they're trying to do with this, and I can see that they have good intentions for it and everything like that, but I just don't know if currently the rest of the world is ready for something like this. And again, I feel this is a very fragile topic to like handle because you're dealing with children who are at a very sensitive time of their lives. Like, those last years of puberty, everyone's trying to figure their shit out. Everyone's trying to figure out what kind of person they are, what they want to do for the rest of their life. And a lot of, I guess, the personality traits that are fully blossomed by the time you're an adult is still not yet bloomed by the time you're in high school. High school is that very precious time where those kinds of personality traits really do blossom. So again, it is interesting, it is cool, but I'm looking at both sides of the spectrum here. I'm looking at the good sides, which is obviously it's going to help with people who, potentially don't like going to school, have, self-image issues, maybe are not that socially, great in the school environment. It might alleviate bullying to some extent, but again, bullies are always going to find a way. But at the same time, on the other side of the spectrum, I fear for how these kids are going to grow up and learn certain skills that may not necessarily be able to be used in a real world setting. And I think if you spend 3 years in an environment like this, 3 years is a goddamn long time. Like, I get fucking sick of VR 3 hours in, let alone 3 whole years. Like, that is a long time to be living day to day in VR. As of right now, we don't really have any like previous cases of someone living in VR for that long, or maybe we do. I don't know. I personally don't know anyone, honestly, but it is kind of interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how these kids are going to develop when put in an environment like this that is very different and very, I guess, separated from the current state of the real world. So we're just going to have to find out and see, but I'm really curious about what you guys think. So please let me know down in the comments below. Do you think this is going to be a good thing? Do you think this is going to be a bad thing? What are the positives and the negatives that you see from something like this? And yeah, we're going to have to see how this develops, if it's actually going to be implemented or not, and what the consequences for that are going to be. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smack my face right here, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep making big channel number go bigger. Over here next to my head is a couple more videos you can check out. If you enjoyed this one, links to my social media, as well as my Patreon to support me directly, and Nonsense, my clothing brand. Check it out. And
if you pinch your skin really hard, you might get a red, painful bump that fills with blood. This is known as a blood blister. A painful bump that fills with blood. If you pinch your skin really hard, you might get a red, painful bump that fills with blood. This is known as a blood blister, and it's the result of damaged blood vessels under the skin. Now, since the skin doesn't actually break, the blood gets trapped right under the surface. The blister acts as a cushion protecting the injured area, and under the surface. The blister doesn't actually break, the blood gets trapped right under the surface. The blister acts as a cushion protecting the injured area, and as it heals, the red color fades as the blood is reabsorbed back into the body. If you pinch your skin,
five different fights, making him feel invincible.
Money is a false sense of security.
False sense of security. Nothing about it could be a
You feel
real...
invincible with money.
Yeah.
You feel like you can't even die.
Which, when combined with the bitterness from his time spent in prison, caused Tyson to begin spending